Let's start a new project. This is going to be the welcome dialog for Xcode, and we're going to start a new Xcode project by clicking here. You can also go, if you don't...
Ben de aynı zamanda uygulamaya çalışacağım. Yani şu preview'u şöyle alalım. Ya da şöyle alayım. Şimdi Xcode'u ben de açacağım. Şöyle açalım. Şuraya da sabitleyelim. Keep in doc diye. Şu şekilde. Tamamdır. Şimdi Xcode'umuz açıldı. Şuradan bir dakika, üst monitörden almam lazım. Create new project diyoruz. Ve app diyoruz sanırım.
Don't see this, you can go File, New, and you can choose Project. Same thing. Both will bring you to a screen like this where you can choose what sort of project template you want to start with. So we're working with iOS. Make sure you're on this tab and then go ahead and click App. And for here, I'm going to gloss over some of these project details because our goal is for you to get that result and make that discovery that you can build an app. So I am going to save all the explanations for lesson 2. Right now, I would recommend that you just follow along exactly what I do and get that result and have...
Bu arada videoyu bir tık hızlı izliyorum. 1.5'da izliyorum. Benim için anlaması ve ilerlemesi biraz daha kolay ve hızlı oluyor. Atlayamadığım yerde durduruyorum. O şekilde.
That app in your hand. All right, so let's go ahead and call this L1.
Anlayamadığım yerde durduruyorum. Atlayamadığım değil. Anlayamadığım yerde durduruyorum. Atlayarak ilerliyorum vesaire.
Demo. I think you probably have nothing under the team. Organization identifier, you can put in com, dot, and then your name, no spaces. And interface, make sure this says SwiftUI. It should be like that by default anyways.
Aynen. Interface'imiz default olarak SwiftUI. L1 demo demiş. Biz de lesson 1 diyelim. Lesson 1 demo diyelim biz de. Daha anlaşılır gibi.
Language should be Swift. Now, uncheck all of those if they are checked. Go ahead, click next, and choose a place to save it. Source control, this should be unchecked. I'm just going to save it now.
Bende next tuşu açık değil. Neden olabilir? Storage, Swift data mı demeliyim? Ya da team'e add account mu demem gerekiyor acaba? Bakalım. Tamam. Organization Identifier ismini girmeden olmuyor sanırım. com.onurkagano desem peki şu şekilde. Next diyebiliyor muyum? Diyorum aynen. Şimdi desktop'ta new folder diyeceğim. iOS Development diyorum. Create diyorum. Buraya bir folder daha açmak istiyorum aslında. New folder. Day 1 diyeceğim. Tamam, create diyelim. Kendisi otomatik olarak bir şeyler yazdı. Git repository creation failed. Ne diyor? Bunu şimdilik fixlememize gerek olmayabilir.
Next and choose a place to save it. Source control, this should be unchecked.
Source control'u unchecked yapmadım çünkü. Peki kapatsam mesela ve yeni bir proje açsam, o şekilde daha temiz ilerlesem daha iyi olabilir diye düşünüyorum. Bunu komple silsem. App, next diyorum. Lecture 1, demo. Tamam. Next diyorum yine. Buraya yeni bir folder açacağım. Day 1, tamam. Bunun içine alması lazım. Şöyle yapsam. Create diyorum. Tamam, şimdi daha çok içmesinde. Evet. Şimdi devam edelim.
I'm just going to save it on my desktop for now, since this is a temporary project. Now you're going to give it some time. It's going to boot up your new app project. I'm going to open this window up a little bit. You see how fast I was able to see something here on the right-hand side for you. If it's a first launch, it will take a little bit longer. Give it a couple of minutes even. But while that is going, we are actually going to...
İlk kez açıyorsanız Xcode'u dedi. Biraz daha zaman alabilir buradaki preview'un gelmesi dedi. Bizim de biraz daha zaman alıyor ama o sırada izleyelim.
Go ahead on this left-hand side here and click Assets. Now, this is the asset library. This is where you're going to store all of the image and color assets for your app project. I've prepared an image file that we're going to use for this demo. You can go ahead and pause the video and grab any image you want. Save it somewhere where you know where it is. And what you're going to do is click and drag it into this panel right here. Or this panel, doesn't really matter. This is...
Bir image seçelim internetten. Şunu direkt alıyorum. Save images diyeceğim. Bunu direkt aslında desktop'ta Day1'ın ile bir demonun hatta içine ya da Day1'ın içine kaydedelim. Şimdi dedi ki bu image'i sürükleyebilirsiniz buraya. Ben sürüklemeyi deniyorum. Hop, yapamadım. Ha, geldi. Tamam. Güzel. Devam edelim.
Big panel, so let's drag it there. What you're going to see is this image asset that you've added to your Xcode project. Now take note of this name here because we're going to be referring to that image.
Gara false burada name'i. Ben burada name'i değiştirebiliyor muyum? Rename gibi bir seçenek var mı? Sanırım yok, o yüzden sileceğim. Daha kolay bir isim olursa daha iyi olur benim için. Şunu rename diyorum. Camera yapıyorum. Tekrardan atıyorum ve evet, tamam, güzel.
With that name, you can rename it by tapping and clicking it like that and just typing in whatever you want, or you can hit enter and you can also rename it like that. So mine's going to be named Niagara Font, or image with that name. You can rename it by tapping and clicking it like that and just typing in whatever you want.
Direkt uygulama içinden rename edebiliyormuşuz onu.
Or you can
hit
enter and you can also rename it like that. So mine's going to be named Niagara Falls. That's perfectly fine for me. So now that you've got that done, let's go ahead and click on content view. So by this time you should be seeing something on here, and what you see here is a preview of your user interface. So you can see what this screen looks like, and this.
Az önce bir şeyler görünüyordu ancak şu an görünmüyor. Content view'e tekrar geliyorum. Tamam, şu anda bir şeyler gözüküyor.
This screen right here on the right hand side is defined by the code that is written on the left hand side. I'm going to make this really easy for you to understand. We are going to delete all of this user interface and we're going to build it from scratch. And you'll see how easy this is. Right now, it looks like a whole bunch of code that it's really hard to understand. We're going to change that. So let's highlight this code starting at VStack and then going all the way to the end of this line 18.
Şimdi benim kodum tamamen farklı aslında. Peki bunun sebebi nedir acaba? Peki şöyle desek, şimdi bunun struct'ı var, content view'u var, view'u var. Struct, content view. Yani ben şu kısmı tamamıyla silsem, çünkü benim programım farklı bir şey yapıyor gibi gözüküyor. Benim programım tarihi ve zamanı ekleyen bir item oluşturuyor. Aynen. Ben eğer şuradan itibaren silersem, nereye kadar siliyor? Var body diyor. Şu var body'nin içini temizliyoruz aslında yani. Peki şuradan mı başlıyor bu, yoksa buradan mı? Buradan. Tamam, şurayı silmemi istiyor benden. Tamamdır. Altta ne var? Struct content view. Aslında şöyle yapsam daha iyi olabilir. Şimdi şu kodu kopyalayıp şu şekilde alıp şöyle kopyalayabilirsem direkt bunu çalıştırsam daha iyi olur diye düşünüyorum. Şimdi tabii burada epey yanlışlıklarla geldi bu. Import Swift UI dedik. Struct Content View dedik. View dedik. Yok, oradan dememişiz. View dedik. Burada Apple biraz işimizi zorlaştırdı. Bütün şeyleri çevirmem gerekiyor buna. Şu VStack kısmını zaten siliyorduk padding'e kadar. Tamam, sildik. Ne kalacak geriye? Silinmiş halini görelim bir.
Now Xcode is going to throw up.
Tamam. Burayı hallettik. Tekrardan struct diyoruz. Preview provider. Tamam. Şurası identity olacak. Burası 2 kere identity olacak ve burası da 1 kere miydi? Aynen. Tamam, şimdi aynı koda sahibiz.
A whole bunch of errors because
evet. Bir fark var mı diye bakıyorum. Şurada sanırım şöyle bir parantez eklemem gerekiyor. Tamam. Şurada birkaç hata var. Bunların sebebini anlamlandıramadım. Burasıyla aynı şu an için.
it can't detect anything to display, but we are just about to add some new elements on there. So in the upper right hand corner,
Şimdi devam ediyorum. Tekrar bir bakacağım. Some view. Şuradan. Tamam. Tamam, şimdi hatalarımız da aynı sanıyorum ki. Evet, tamam.
you see this plus icon. If you put your mouse over it, it's going to say library. So we're going to Tap on that, and then by default, it should be on this first tab actually. So I was using it before, so it was on the second tab, but I want you to go ahead and click on this first tab. This one is all of the views that you can add to your screen. And I want you to, in here, type in image. And you're going to click on the second one called image, and you're just going to drag and drop it right where all of that code was that we just deleted.
Tamam. Buradan artıya bastı ve buradaki aslında kütüphaneye erişti. Ne kütüphanesi denebilir buraya? Aslında işte kod bloklarındaki ya da uygulama bloklarındaki bloklar mı denir? Bloklar denebilir. Yani buton, işte color picker, date picker gibi işlevsel blokları kodumuza ekleyebiliyoruz ve image kod bloğunu alıp buradaki var body'nin içerisine konumlandırdık.
So this is an image view. It's going to allow you to display an image. You're going to click this middle part, you're going to hit enter, and you're going to change the text inside the quotes. So I'm going to get rid of that. Notice that I still have the two quotes here. In between those two quotes, we're going to type in the asset name. So just to remind ourselves, let's go back to the asset library. Mine is called Niagara Falls like that. You're going to type in exactly verbatim what you have here, including any spaces, dashes, capital letters, anything. You're going to type it exactly in between here. Because if it doesn't match, it's not going to display. And you can also, at this point, rename it to something that's easier to type if you want. You can do that. And what you're going to see is the image. This is previewing what we have here. Now, this doesn't look quite right to me, so I am going to modify this image view. I'm going to customize it. We're going to open up the library again by tapping that. And this time, we are going to switch over to the second tab. And these are where all the modifiers are. So modifiers are things that we add to the view to change its properties and attributes. First of all, let's add something called resizable. So you only have to type in the first couple of letters and you'll find this. So this allows you to, it tells the system that this image can be resized. So I'm going to click and drag once again and put it. You can either put it at the end or you can put it right underneath. And right away, give it a little bit of time, you'll notice that it changes. The other thing you'll
Tamam, biz de yapalım. Image'a bir özellik ekliyoruz aslında. Modifiers diyor. Buraya da views diyormuş. Burada ne var? Mesela snippets. Bunların anlamlarını şu an için tam olarak ben de bilmiyorum. Ancak buraya resize yazacağız. Resizable yazıyormuşuz. Bunu kameranın sonuna ekleyelim ancak şurada durması sanki daha düzenli olabilir gibi. Çünkü bir image'in atıyorum birden fazla bir sürü özelliği olduğunda hepsini tek tek ucuca eklemek yerine alt alta görmek daha düzenli olur diye düşünüyorum.
notice though is that the image now looks a little bit squished, right? It looks squished and the aspect ratio is not correct. We're going to also add a modifier to change that. But first, I want to round the corners. That's something nice and easy and it looks pleasant. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's add another modifier by opening up the library. We are going to this time, make sure you're on the second tab, modifiers, and search for corner radius. Click drag and drop again. And this is the nice thing. We're going to put it underneath resizable. You see that? It's automatically going to put a space for you. Make sure you don't accidentally put it down here or like after this bracket or anything like that. You want to put it after the resizable. So that's going to look neat and tidy like that. And you're going to notice a slight corner rounding, but we can't really see it, right? So we're going to change this number. Let's change it to 10 and see if we see anything. I can see slightly more rounding now, but take a look at this as well. I'm going to leave my mouse anywhere on image, resizable, or corner radius, my cursor, I mean, and on the rightmost side here, you can see a whole bunch of things you can configure. After we added that corner radius modifier, you see right here, this reflects what we typed in right here. And in fact, if I press plus, you can see it's changing the number, right? So this is a very easy way for us to modify the code visually through an interface here. Here, you can see a whole bunch of things you can configure. After we added that corner radius modifier, you see right here, this reflects what we typed in right here. And in fact, if I press plus, you can see it's changing the number, right? So this is a very easy way for us to modify the code visually through an interface here. Okay, so I promised that we would unsquish this image, right?
Tamamdır. Bunu 60 da değil 50 yapayım. 40 yapalım. Tamam, şimdi daha güzel gözüküyor.
Let's go ahead and open up the library and we are going to search for aspect ratio. And we're going to drag and drop this one right under corner radius. So again, make sure you put it right there. And if you accidentally put it right here, for example, you can go ahead and delete it and try it again. Now I'm going to put my cursor on aspect ratio because I want to change the type of aspect ratio. We can define how we want this to behave. Let's make a little more space. You can drag this and make the preview a little smaller so the code will fit on one line. So you can see here it says fill, which is exactly what we have here. I'm going to pull down this drop down. I want to find one that's called fit because that will actually shrink the image down, keeping the aspect ratio until it fits the screen, which is what the behavior that I want to see. Unfortunately, it's not in this drop down. Maybe Xcode can't detect it. However, don't forget, we can modify it through the code as well. So I am going to get rid of this fill by just I'm going to delete it like that. And then I'm going to hit dot on my keyboard and out pops this menu. This is called the autocomplete menu. And it's going to allow you to select from different options without having to type too much. So just by hitting dot, it opens up this menu and it gives me different options. Now there we have fit, right? An option that resizes the content so that it's all within the available space, both vertically and horizontally. Let's choose that and see how that looks. Perfect, that's what I wanted. Now, one thing to note, if you press dot and that menu doesn't pop up, that's perfectly fine. Just type this out, dot FIT, and you're gonna get the same result. Next, I don't really like how it's touching the edges, so let's go ahead and add another modifier. This time, it's called padding. So we're gonna drag and drop that. So you can see how easy this is, right? You don't even have to write all of this code. You can do this visually. I like the way the picture looks now. Let's put a piece of text underneath. So we're gonna open up the library again. You see a common theme here. This time, we're gonna switch over back to the Views tab, and we're gonna search for text. We're gonna drag and drop that. This displays a piece of text, right?
Evet, tekrar yapalım bunu da. Mesela burada text yazsam bir şey çıkıyor mu? Şuraya geldiğimde tekrardan bunu gördüm, anladım. Yani hepsi kendi içinde özel bir şekilde değer alıyor.
And you want to make sure that you never, you want to respect the brackets, right? So you never want to put anything outside of these two brackets because you
Mesela
see,
bu padding'in atıyorum şeyini değiştirmek istiyorum. Default olarak değil de mesela kendisi otomatik bir padding atıyor sanırım. Yani ben atıyorum şuraya kadar padding yapmasını istiyorum ve ona göre küçültmesini istiyorum diyemiyor muyum? Onu bilemedim mesela. Şu an onu merak ettim.
see when I click it, right? When I click this, it shows the opening bracket. We have to put all of the components after this opening bracket and before this closing bracket. So think of it as a sandwich. So there's my text. Let's go ahead and double click placeholder. And once again, I can get rid of that text in between the quotes and I can type in whatever I want. But you might get some errors in Xcode now, or worse yet, Xcode might not tell you what's wrong and it might just not show you anything, as in what's happening right now. So the problem is that it doesn't know how to lay out these two elements. How do you want them arranged? On top of each other, beside each other? It doesn't know. Luckily, we have something called a lay.
Yani aslında burada bir image var, bir de text var ve bu image ile text'in hangisini nerede göstereceğini Xcode şu an bilemiyor. Ve bizim bunu aslında Xcode'da söylememiz lazım. İşte text, image'in altında, üstünde, 2 piksel sağında, 10 piksel aşağısında gibi sanırım bir şekilde
layout
söylememiz
container to
gerekiyor.
tell the system how to lay out multiple elements on the screen. So again, let's open up the library under views. Let's search for vertical stack. You can type in VStack, vertical stack. We're going to choose this one, not the lazy ones. So vertical stack, let's drag and drop that. I'm going to put this above the image this time. You'll see that this one, let's add some space in between it. This one comes with an opening bracket and a closing bracket, and in between it is content. So what a VStack does is whatever content is in between the opening bracket and closing bracket, it will lay it out on top of each other. So what we want to do is we're going to delete that content, and we are going to move this image along with all of its modifiers, as well as the text element inside the VStack, right, in between these two brackets. So I'm going to press Command X to cut that code and put my cursor in between those two brackets and press Command V to paste it. And what you're going to see on the right-hand side is now it knows how you want to arrange those elements. I want to change the text. Let's go ahead and add some modifiers, right? Okay, let's open up the library, change to the modifiers tab, and we're going to choose one called font. And you might not see it right away because, I mean, the search, I guess the word font is in the descriptions of all of this, but we're specifically going to look for one called font. There we go. Let's put that at the end. And then I'm going to hit enter to just organize it a little bit. And with this font one, you can change already. This is a title font, so you can see that it made it bigger. On the right-hand side, if you put your cursor on the text, you can see the font here. It refers to title. I can go ahead and choose that and choose a large title, for example. It makes it a little bigger. And let's say I wanted it to be bold. Let's change the weight to semi-bold. You see when I did that, it added a font weight modifier and set it to semi-bold. So I could have done this another way. I could have actually, I could delete that. And then we could have gone via our trusty library method, and I could add the font weight modifier like that and change this to semi-bold. So we would get the same result. Okay, now let's put the finishing touches on this app. So what I want to do is add a black background and then we're done essentially. Okay, so how do we add background here? So this is kind of not intuitive, but you're gonna get used to it, is if you want to add a colored background, you add a color element to the screen. So let's open up our library, it's under views, and we're gonna search for color, and that's the one right there. So we are going to drag and drop it. Once again, I'm gonna put it above the VStack, like that. And you can see, you can specify different percentages of green and blue. So if I wanted a black background, this would be like, they would be all zeros, and that would be black. However, there's also a different way to specify black. I can get rid of all of that. Like this is good if you want a really custom color, but there are some presets that you can use as well. So I'm gonna put color, I'm gonna leave the two brackets like that. And in between those two brackets, I'm gonna put dot. It's gonna open this up. If it doesn't open for you, that's fine. Just type out dot black. I'm gonna choose it from here. And that's preset. Now notice how this color, first of all, it covers everything. Second of all, it doesn't reach the edges, okay? And the reason why it doesn't reach the edges is because this is what's known as the safe area. This is where things like the battery percentage and like the time displays. And down here, you have that little handle that you can grab and you can, change between apps or minimize an app. So if you want your elements or your colors or whatever it may be to go into those zones, the safe area, you have to add a modifier to tell it to do so. So let's go ahead and add that modifier. Hit open the library and then switch to modifiers and let's type in ignore. And there's this one, ignores the safe area. So you're basically saying that you don't care about the safe area and you want this element to go.
Aslında iPhone'daki işte şu yukarıda işte bataryadır, Wi-Fi simgesidir ve işte şu aşağıdaki o gesture özelliğini sağlayan butondur vesaire. Bunlar olduğu için şu anda Xcode bize tam ekranı kullanmamıza izin vermiyor ve bizim ignore safe area aslında fonksiyonunu, modifier'ını çağırmamız gerekiyor. Ignore safe area. Buralara safe area deniyormuş. Tabii ki aslında kullanışlı olacağı yerler de vardır bunun. Yani ben de uygulama geliştiriyor olsam o butonların üzerine gelmesini, o özelliklerin üzerine gelmesini istemem. Ancak şu an için uygulama biraz daha farklı sanırım. Yapılabilecek bir nokta yani. O şekilde anladım.
Into that danger zone, safe area. Now you can see our color covers everything. The problem is we don't see anything else. So why don't we try making some space in our VStack right here and highlighting our color with the modifier, Command X to cut it, put it in here, Command V to paste it. And what do you know? Our VStack puts it, arranges it on top of each other, but it's probably not what we're expecting, right? And you can see that it did it in a way, it's pretty smart, where it gave each element enough space. So this is as much space that like the text needs, and then the image, and then the black color takes up the rest, whatever.
Aslında gerçekten de bayağı basit duruyor şu an için ilk etapta. Yani Xcode bizim için çoğu şeyi yapıyor gibi ve işte bu sağ taraftaki özellikler vesaire olsun epey kullanışlı bir tool'a benziyor şu an için.
Else is available. So that's not really what we're after. We want the image and the text to sit on top of the color element, right? So there's
Evet.
another layout.
Yani aslında biz bu görselin de text'in de bu color'dan yukarıda olmasını istiyoruz. Yani color'dan bize doğru gelmesini istiyoruz. Color'ın arka planda kalmasını istiyoruz diyor. Öyle o şekilde anladım. Bunu nasıl yaparız? Şimdi bunu göreceğiz.
It's called a depth stack, or in other words, a ZStack or ZStack if you're Canadian like me. So this one is going to be special. Things can actually sit on top of each other on the Z-axis in sort of like a depth. You can have depth would be the best way to describe it, right? So let's try this out. Let's erase content, and let's first of all move the color in there. Command X, Command V, and next we are going to add our entire VStack in there. Okay. So let me just remove some of the space. Make sure this is very you got to be very careful because we're moving things around.
Yani aslında hem vertical bir şekilde, yani bir telefonla örnek verecek olursam, hem vertical bir düzen hem de Z şeklindeki, Z aksisindeki bir düzenden bahsediyoruz. Biz burada color'ı en altta koyacağız ve diğer eklediğimiz şeyleri o color'ın üstüne ekleyerek gideceğiz ki color diye eklediğimiz şey aslında bizim content'imizi görünmez yapmasın. Yani color onun önüne geçmemeli, arka planda durmalı. Dolayısıyla burada sanırım onun düzenlemesini yapıyoruz.
If you misalign one of the brackets here, it won't be able to read your code properly, and it won't know what sort of layout to make. So tap on this bracket and make sure that when you do this, that it's highlighting the bracket that you expect it to. So you want to grab the VStack along with its opening bracket, along with all the contents, along with the closing bracket. So I'm just highlight all that, Command X, and in here, inside the ZStack, before the closing bracket, I'm going to put that in there. So what it's going to do is it's going to put the color at the bottom, and then it's going to put the VStack along with all of its contents on top of that. And so we have this. Unfortunately, our text is not visible. So let's go ahead and add a modifier. So I could just do this and choose white, or we could add a modifier. And the one that we're looking for is foreground color. That's what we would add to change the color of the text. However, let's modify it here and see what happens. See, when I chose white, it added the foreground color modifier for us and set it to color white.
Peki mesela ben şu an bunu yaptığımda acaba kullanıcı buradaki bataryayı, işte Wi-Fi, hücresel veri vesaire bu verileri görebilecek mi? Siyah şeyin üzerinde, yoksa onlar da mı gizli kalacak? Bundan tam emin değilim. Bakalım.
Pretty simple stuff, right? Now comes the fun part. Let's launch our app. Now later in this video series, I'll definitely show you how to launch this app or any app on your phone or your device. For right now, we are going to run this in the iOS simulator. So up here, you're going to notice it says iPhone, whatever. Well, it depends what version of Xcode you have, but I want you to tap on that and you can choose a bunch of different simulators. Choose the latest iPhone that you want. I'm just going to choose iPhone 14, and I want you to hit this run button. Now give it a couple of minutes, and then you are going to see a virtual iPhone. And I want you to hit this run button. Now give it a couple of minutes, and then you are going to see a virtual iPhone on your screen. I have to warn you though, if this is the first time you're running the iOS simulator, it's going to take a few minutes to boot up, but subsequent times it's going to be a lot faster. Now here it is. This is the simulator. Now the cool thing about the simulator is that there's some quick buttons here where you can rotate it to a different orientation, so you can see what it looks like. You can take a screenshot. You can even take a video from the menus up here. You can hit this to go back to the home screen. You can take there's some quick buttons here where now here it is. This is the simulator. Now the cool thing about the simulator is that there's some quick buttons.
Simulator geldi ancak tamam. Kendi uygulamamı burada direkt görebiliyorum. Şimdi o zaman bahsettiğim şeyde deneme şansım olacak. Ancak adam birkaç dakika sürebilir bunun açılması dedi. Biz de belki biraz şu an tam olarak hazır değildir.
Here where you can rotate it to a different orientation so you can see what it looks like. You can take a screenshot. You can even take a video from the menus up here. You can hit this to go back to the home screen. This is a virtual iPhone for you to test your app. Now, what is the difference between this simulator and the preview that we had inside Xcode? Well, this simulator is great for testing your app because it has features to, look, you can simulate a shake. You can test out Face ID. You can simulate locations, like a custom location. You can simulate a driving car or a bicycle ride. So there are lots of things or tools for you to test your app, whereas the preview is good as exactly that, a preview while you are building your user interface. If you want to download this project, just check in the video description below. I hope.
Mesela bak şu an evet Wi-Fi'yi vesaire görebiliyoruz burada. Şurada tamamen siyah gözükmesine rağmen aslında buradaki preview'da Wi-Fi ve saat kısmı, bildirim kısmı gözüküyor. Şu an gayet güzel. İlk uygulamamız aslında bir kamera gösterme uygulaması. Kamera fotoğrafı gösterme uygulaması. Bence gayet iyi. Şuradan şeylere bakalım, feature'lara. Evet, dediği gibi bayağı fazla bir e, şeyi simüle etme şansı tanımış bize Xcode. E, evet, dediğim gibi ilk günlük şu an için bu kadar. Bugün neler öğrendik? Aslında ne oldu ya? Content View'a gelelim. Hı. Aslında işte buradaki library browser'ı nasıl kullanırız? Burada ne gibi özellikler var? Ve Xcode'a bir genel bakış yaptık. Burada mesela image e, şu an neden gözükmüyor sağda ya? Bunu kapatalım. Ha, tamam. Burada mesela image'in üzerine geldiğimde buradaki image ile ilgili özellikleri değiştirebiliyorum direkt. Çok hızlı bir şekilde. Ve çok anlaşılır bir şekilde aslında. E, her şey şu an ilk bakışta benim için çok anlaşılır geldi gözüme. Kullanımı kolay geldi. Tabii projeler kompleksleştikçe, uygulamalar kompleksleştikçe bu da zorlaşacaktır. Ancak ilk bakışta keyifli geldi yani. İlk gün için bu kadar. İkinci günde görüşmek üzere. İzlediğiniz için teşekkür ederim. Görüşmek üzere.